Every great story has a turning point, that single moment where the entire plot shifts and destiny is rewritten. For the American War of Independence, that moment was the Battles of Saratoga. It wasn't just a military victory, it was the event that convinced a global superpower, France, to join the fight, ultimately tipping the scales in favor of American independence. This is the story of how a flawed British plan, a brash general's overconfidence, and a moment of defiant heroism changed the world forever. Our story begins in 1777 with a grand but deeply flawed British strategy. From London, Lord George Germain devised a three-pronged pincer movement designed to converge on Albany, New York. The goal? To cut New England off from the rest of the colonies, effectively strangling the rebellion. On paper, it looked brilliant. But in the rugged wilderness of America, it was a logistical nightmare. The northern prong of this attack was led by General John Burgoyne. Known as Gentleman Johnny, Burgoyne was an aggressive commander and a notorious gambler, famous for his supreme overconfidence. In a move that perfectly captures his personality, he brought along 30 carts filled with his personal belongings, including his mistress, a massive burden for an army marching through hostile territory. Meanwhile, the other two prongs of the British plan simply fell apart. General Howe decided to capture Philadelphia instead of heading north, and the western force under St. Leger was pushed back. Suddenly, Burgoyne and his slow-moving army were all alone, deep in enemy territory, with their supply lines stretched thin. Facing him was the American general Horatio Gates. Gates, knowing Burgoyne's reputation as a gambler, chose a patient, defensive strategy. He set up his forces in a strong position and simply waited for Burgoyne to make a mistake. He knew that with dwindling supplies and no reinforcements, Burgoyne would eventually be forced to risk everything on a desperate attack. And so, the stage was set for the first of two critical clashes. On September 19, 1777, the first engagement, the Battle of Freeman's Farm, kicked off. Burgoyne, growing impatient, tried to outflank the entrenched American forces at Bemis Heights. By the end of the day, the British held the field, but it was a classic Pyrrhic victory. They had suffered around 600 casualties, a devastating blow to their already weakened army. More importantly, they failed to break the American line. Burgoyne's advance on Albany had ground to a halt. General Gates's patient trap had worked. The British were bleeding, stalled, and completely isolated as they waited for reinforcements that would never arrive. For the next 18 days, an uneasy quiet settled over the two armies. But while the British licked their wounds, the American forces swelled. Militia from all over the region poured in, growing their numbers to over 12,000 men. Burgoyne's army, on the other hand, was starving and shrinking. His gamble had failed, and time was running out. He knew he had to act. But as Burgoyne planned his next move, drama was unfolding in the American camp. General Gates had taken all the credit for the first battle, completely omitting the brilliant and aggressive field commander, General Benedict Arnold, from his reports. The soldiers knew who the real hero was, and tension between the two generals boiled over. In a furious argument, Gates relieved Arnold of his command, ordering him to stay in his tent. This bitter conflict, however, would have an unforeseen and history-altering consequence. On October 7th, with his options exhausted, Burgoyne launched a second, desperate attack. This was the Battle of Bemis Heights. The American forces, well prepared and in high spirits, easily repelled the British reconnaissance force. Back at headquarters, Benedict Arnold was fuming in his tent, listening to the sounds of battle. In a moment of pure defiance, he decided he couldn't stand by. He grabbed his sword, mounted his horse, and galloped straight into the fight, defying Gates's direct orders. In a great rage and fury, as one soldier described it, Arnold rallied the American troops. He rode like a madman between the lines, a whirlwind of inspiration, leading a furious charge against a key British defensive position, a structure called Breyman's Redoubt. Arnold's audacious charge broke the British line. During the assault, he was shot in the same leg that had been wounded earlier in the war, but his objective was achieved. The British defenses collapsed. Their most capable field commander, General Simon Fraser, was killed, and their forces fell into a disorganized, panicked retreat. The battle was a decisive American victory, all thanks to the insubordinate, reckless heroism of a general who wasn't even supposed to be there. Completely surrounded by a much larger army and utterly defeated, General Burgoyne had no choice. On October 17, 1777, he surrendered his entire army to General Horatio Gates. The formal surrender of a full British army was an event that was almost unheard of. News of the American victory at Saratoga sent shockwaves across the Atlantic. The image of British invincibility was shattered. The most important consequence of Saratoga happened far from the battlefield, in the palaces of Paris. Benjamin Franklin, America's diplomat in France, had been working tirelessly to secure a formal alliance. The news of Saratoga was the final piece of the puzzle he needed. It was undeniable proof that the Americans could actually win. France officially recognized the United States as an independent nation and entered the war as its ally. This was the game changer. The French provided soldiers, a powerful navy that could challenge the British at sea, money, and tons of military supplies. The American Revolution transformed from a colonial rebellion into a global war, forcing Britain to fight on multiple fronts across the world. So, the victory at Saratoga was more than just a battle. It was a diplomatic masterstroke, born from British strategic blunders, General Burgoyne's hubris, and the incredible, disobedient courage of General Benedict Arnold. It was the moment the world turned upside down, setting America on the path to final victory and independence. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more chapters from history. We'll see you in the next video. The visuals within this presentation are crafted to enrich your understanding, serving as artistic interpretations and contextual aids rather than direct factual representations. Their purpose is to illuminate the narrative and deepen your engagement with the historical backdrop. Join our growing community of history enthusiasts. Hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support keeps history alive.